continue with the spirits when you want to remove them. And sometimes I'm being seen as quite harsh why I don't like the spirits of the dead so well. And much of this was because I was a farm girl and we bred horses. And horses and spirits of the dead don't work, especially when you have somebody conjuring them and sending them to cause harm to the horses. And horses are very sensitive and scared of the dead. And then throughout life, as I rented different farms or had huge amounts of land with it, and sometimes when the farmhouse or a barn and stables have been empty for a while, and you have these old spirits of the landowners or the farmhands, and they didn't treat animals the way I do. So you could have this like that I opened up a fenced a new field and then the animals were chased across the field. It is just like they would have had an invisible whip or something and whip the horses, and that's when I go in clear banishing of the land. But nature spirits and the mentals are usually, and gnomes are great, and these kind of things that are naturally kind to animals, so it's no problem. And I don't have any problems with house spirits either, of previous residents, but I have a boundary. They are not supposed to interrupt life or make disturbance or make themselves known to me in my sacred space or in my bedroom or connect to me. They are free unless they step those boundaries. And sacred space, as it is in even pagan tradition, is off limits for the dead. When many pagans, when they have to, if you're outdoors, you clean the space of anything that isn't connected to the ritual itself. So unless you work with the dead and the deity who works with the dead, you clear everything out from that space. And so on. And if you want to work planetary magic with dead spirits, the most common are Saturn, Mercury and Moon, or Mars if you do like the military and so on. But there is most people in the old days, they didn't have a deity, they just worked with the spirits of the dead. That is the most common in every country. And let's go to the other topics. Why work with a gem for a longer period of time, like let's say 11 days, and then you go on to the next and so on. And the important thing is here is to work with, I always work with two during that time. One to bring in spiritual and teaching, and one who removes the negative entities. And that is so that you can learn to see the weaknesses. There is so much in the invisible world that you don't understand, and that always makes us vulnerable, that it happens more, and when you remove one negative entity, something even more stronger can enter in. So when it's a void, you fill it up with something else, let's say like a angel who teaches you different spiritual practices or gives you insight to philosophy or whatever to fill up that space. And then, of course, I work with Olympic spirits, and they are powerful planetary spirits. And they are good as well. And Hekate is great for lost souls, poltergeists, collecting all wandering souls. She lets out Cerberus at crossroads. And if you have something like that causes havoc in your life, and they don't want to cross over or anything with the angels, or you don't want to work with angels, then Hekate is the one to call upon. And with chaos magic, I don't do it, but there are many who do this, and when I work with the angel, I always give, before I call on the angel, I give them a chance to leave. And if they don't take that chance to leave on their free accord, then I call upon the angels. So I give them a choice there, but it's up to them to take it. And the angels make sure that they end up where they belong, where whatever plane that is, whether it's back to school where you have to learn how to behave like a spirit or something like that. And in chaos magic, when you just blast them off to somewhere else. I actually heard a story of a man who did this, and they performed this at one point and it ended up in his own home instead. So I don't know how true it was, but chaos magic can work that way, since you just blast it off and it goes into the universe somewhere, and it's chaos, so you don't really know where it might end up in your somebody you love's home. It might end up in somewhere else, so you don't really set any boundaries where it might end up. So I prefer the angels, since I ask them to escort them to wherever they belong to, or so on. And magic, I do magic to remove it to the place where it belongs, and then I can set up unbreakable boundaries with Saturn or Mars or something. And then there are those who perform healing for the unwanted spirits, but the question is to find a legitimate one who really can do that. That is always, there are many who claims to say they do things and it just gets worse and doesn't work. And if you want, and then of course you must set protection around your property after. And don't ever set up protection while you're doing this banishing an entity, since you might end up trapping the energies within your home. And something I sometimes do is binding a spirit to an object through ritual if it's causing havoc in somebody's lives. And then I remove the object and take it and bless it or something, or bury it somewhere. And it's the magical links that I can either set it free or remove it somewhere else, so that it is out of the property. And there are just some things you can do, but of course you can do prayer. But the most important thing is to not, many people who pray, they pray because they are afraid, and if you can approach things without fear and really setting up the boundaries, you are better off than just clinging on to, let's say, buying a statue of a saint and hoping, or buying exorcism candles and hoping they might work, since a thing like this might go on for a long time, and it's better to try to transform yourself and take charms and take action yourself. And if it's a very small incident, you can of course visualize that you have this egg and different colors around and all those things they do. And but as a magician, I just set up boundaries around the house. And in Buddhist tradition, they use red thread. In old folk magic, they also use thread or these spirit trapping bottles, but I don't like to trap anything. I just want to get rid of them, since they haven't crossed over. They are somewhere in between. But I know one thing: they are not allowed in my home, but they should be. And sometimes spirits, if let's say they are in spirit school and learning and adapting so they can cross over, I don't like to work on them or contact them for my own sake, like since they have something to learn and do on the other realms, so they can go on and find their place. So that is just about me and the spirits of the dead, that they are not really... And they don't really bring anything to magic. They are just like a in witchcraft they have more like smaller things, but not really in magic. They don't. Since you have the personality you had in this life, so you are not awakened and very wise just because you cross over, unless you were wise already when you crossed over. So it is that view, and so on. So next time let's talk about some real haunting cases then, shall we? Have a magical day. Bye for now.